Hey guys, welcome back to another fun informational video. I hope. So today we're going to talk about something that, I don't know about you guys, but I was really confused about it in the beginning of my crazy over collecting of plants journey. And so I've done a lot of research, a lot of reading, and I wanted to share with you today some of the things that I have learned and just some general information about this topic. What's the topic, you may ask? Actually, you're probably not asking because you've already seen the thumbnail of this video, which I haven't created yet. So you know what you're watching. Okay. So we're going to talk about fertilization today. There's a lot of opinions on fertilization and when and what kind to use and all that kind of thing. So I'm just going to kind of give you some information that I have found, some stuff that I do and use. And yeah, we'll just kind of go from there. So do what you want with the information that I'm about to share with you. And even if you learned something that you didn't know before, then this whole thing was worth it. All right, guys, stick around. So fertilization is one of those things that so many people overlook. I've heard a lot of plant people say they don't fertilize, they don't believe in fertilizing. You know what? Okay. I don't want to say those people are doing it wrong because everybody has their own way of doing things. But proper nutrients for your plants is essential in keeping healthy, actively growing plants. And so that's kind of the basis of this whole video. So unlike outdoor plants, your indoor plants, so your outdoor plants are provided constant nutrients. You know, they have the rain, things wash into the roots. They also have the ability to send roots out looking for, you know, better soil, better nutrients. Your indoor plants don't have that option. They are basically bound to whatever you give them or don't give them. So depending on what kind of soil you use, will kind of depend on what kind of fertilizer, what nutrients that you need to give your plant. So a lot of pre-made potting soils or indoor mixes these days come with a lot of amendments, things like perlite and bark, and a large majority of them come with like a slow release fertilizer. So those slow release fertilizers only last so long. So all of the nutrients in the soil generally will be used up within about 2 to 3 months of you potting that plant in that soil. So then at this point, you're going to have to make a decision. Are you going to continue to fertilize? Or are you just going to be like throwing caution to the wind and whatever happens, happens? I don't recommend that, but there's some people who, you know, believe in that method. So you just kind of have to decide which side of the fence you're on there. So fertilizers come in several different forms or types or kinds or whatever you want to call that. So they come in liquids, sticks, granular, tablets, and slow release forms. So of these, of all of those types, probably your best bet for indoor plants is either liquid or slow release formulas. Sticks and tablets, you know, you can get those little like, I'm not sure who, I mean, I'm sure all kinds of different manufacturers make these. You can get those little sticks that you kind of stick into the soil, which seem convenient. However, once you stick those in the soil, number one, you have absolutely no control about how much nutrients are being released. Anyway, the other thing with those sticks is that, you know, because of where you're putting them, it tends to kind of leave the nutrients at one side or another side of the pot. So you'd have to put a whole bunch in there to kind of get an even distribution of nutrients to the roots of your plant. And then you run the risk of over fertilizing your plants. So anyway, they're not something that I recommend, but we'll get to what I do recommend in a few minutes. So your granular fertilizers are more for outdoor use, outdoor gardens and that kind of thing. So you want to try to avoid those. You definitely want to look for a fertilizer that states that it is for indoor plants. That's important. So now let's take a wander through the most often recommended indoor plant fertilizer types. So the first one is going to be your liquid fertilizers. So your liquid fertilizers, always read the directions on anything after you find out it is for indoor plant use. Make sure you read the directions and, feed according to the directions on the bottle. A lot of fertilizers are different, so you don't want to kind of group them all into one because you run the risk of burning your plant or not feeding it enough or that kind of thing. So liquid fertilizers are, shocker, liquid. So typically what happens with a liquid fertilizer is it is put into your watering can and then you water the plant. And I always recommend, and I'm sure most of you already do this, when you're watering your plant, water all the way around the pot just so that everything gets evenly watered, or else you're going to end up with one side of the pot and the roots on that side of the pot getting more water and potentially overwatered, and then the other side not getting the water, and you know where I'm going with that anyways, right? So keep in mind the type of the plant also is going to impact your fertilizing. So do your research when you get your plants. Find out what kind of feeding schedule that they require. Plants that you are going to that you're going to fertilize more often will be things with large blooms, fruiting plants, trees, I guess. I personally don't have anything that really I would consider a bloomer. All of my plants have the potential to bloom. Most of them won't. But anyways, if you're growing things like, I can't even think of anything right now, like African violets, and we'll get into the details on that a little bit later, but things that you want to have these great gorgeous blooms are going to require a little bit more fertilization than say your average foliage plants. So liquid fertilizers are great because they provide the plant a steady stream of nutrients. You're watering it all the way around the plant, so the nutrients are getting all the way around, and that's something that you can control. And a little bit of control is a good thing. Not too much. But in this instance, it's good. So the good thing about liquid fertilizer is, one of the good things that's good about liquid fertilizer is that you have the option of either feeding more or less depending on your plant. If it's growing more, you're going to fertilize more. If it's not growing as much, like I know, a lot of people's plants really rain back on the growth. Mine haven't. I don't know why. I don't know if it's just the conditions and everything's just like, I don't want to jump the gun and speak too soon. I'm just going to knock on wood because now I scared myself. But so in the winter months, typically that's when the growth starts to slow down a little bit. So when you notice the growth of your plant starting to slow, you're able to control and pull back on that feeding. Personally, and this is a personal thing, I would continue to fertilize throughout the winter, just not as much. So if you're one of those people that typically fertilize with every watering, maybe kind of restrict that to every second or third watering. So the plant is getting a little bit of nutrients, but it's not overly so. It's not getting too much. You meant what I knew. So the only drawback that I can really think of to liquid fertilizers is that you actually have to remember to use it. And if you guys are anything like me, I have a very when I'm watering or when I'm repotting, I have a very set, schedule of things that I do and succession of things that I do. So, depending on you. If you need to set yourself reminders on your phone or write it on your calendar on your fridge, then go ahead and do that. But that is kind of, I guess, the one drawback. So it's not as easy as throwing something in the soil and just like calling it a day sort of thing. So there's that. So slow release fertilizers are becoming quite popular because of, again, like I just said, like how easy they are to use. You kind of throw them in your soil, you mix them in, you call it a day. They're very, very handy. You don't have to remember to do it until the time stated on the plant. On the packaging, it will tell you like how often you need to reintroduce the nutrients or the slow release into the soil. So the way slow release fertilizers work is they're these, I'm sure you've seen them. Sometimes you'll see they'll be like green or white or blue, and they're in your soil. So basically how those work is there's a coating on the outside of them, and all of the different pellets in that bag or that container of slow release formula has a different thickness of coating. So because of the different thicknesses of coating, they each break down at different rates, which is what makes it slow release. So they have some that will break down quickly, some take a little longer, some have a thicker coating, so they break down a lot. They take a lot longer to break down. So a single application of these slow release fertilizers can last you, depending on the product that you use, anywhere between 4 to 9 months, which actually is kind of handy. Now, again, depending on when you're using these, you know, you're going through the winter and that kind of thing, and, you know, I don't know. So the only drawback to the slow release fertilizers is that they do tend to be a little bit more expensive. However, because of how long they last in your soil, it kind of evens out. You know, if you're buying a liquid, how many times are you going to buy the liquid to how many times, you know, you're going to have to buy the fertilizer. The slow release fertilizer. So all-purpose fertilizers are great because they include everything that your plant requires and really needs in order to be able to perform and grow and thrive and that kind of thing. So those things are, let's see if I can remember them all. So they're macronutrients, and they're nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. So those are the three main ones that you will typically see on your container of fertilizer. So the ratio of those in each different fertilizer is called a KPN ratio. So most fertilizers you will see that written on the bottle in a set of 3 numbers. It could be like 222 or 710-7, that kind of thing, but we'll get into that a little bit later. So why does your plant need all these? What do these different macronutrients do for you? Well, I'm going to tell you. So your nitrogen in your fertilizer is there to promote healthy growth and foliage in your plant. Your phosphorus is there to provide assistance with blooms and fruiting and root growth and that kind of thing. And then your potassium is there to help the plant do what it needs to do. So all of the general functions of the plant are better. The plant is better able to do that when it has potassium. I'm really hoping that that made any sense at all. So then you also get into things like specialty fertilizers. You'll see different fertilizers for different things like cactus and succulents and African violets. So those kinds of specialty ones are formulated specifically for that plant, that type of plant. So again, with blooms, you're going to want a higher phosphorus content. So when you see something like 7-10-7, that 10 indicates your phosphorus level. So that will be higher in specialty fertilizers that are for plants that bloom. So fertilizers that are specifically made for foliage plants, you're going to find are higher in that first number, so that nitrogen number. So then you'll see things like, 733 or something like that. Whereas like an all-purpose balanced fertilizer is going to be like probably all even numbers, like 555, 333, 222. And those are just the, oh man, I don't know all the as soon as you throw math in it, my brain goes, there's some sort of ratio with what the numbers mean. I don't know if it's like a parts per million. Yeah, we're not going to go there. However, I believe that Summer Rain Oaks, the queen of plants, has a really great video on fertilizer. So if you want to know that particular detail, you can go check out her channel and her video on fertilizers. It's fantastic. I haven't watched it in quite some time, so I'm really hoping she does break that down in there, but I think she does. So having said that, in regards to the different types, so it is really good practice. So if you're somebody who has foliage plants and flowering plants, it is a good practice to get separate fertilizers for those plants so that you're really providing that particular plant with the proper nutrients that it needs to do what it is designed to do, if that makes sense. So ideally you want to use, and like I said, this is one of those things that is up for discussion. You can do what you like, but the ideal fertilizer is going to be one that's made from natural ingredients. It's not jam-packed full of chemicals. Not only do you run the risk of like burning the crap out of the roots of your plant, or doing what I did a while ago and totally having a brain fart and just dumping water with way too much fertilizer right on the top of the plant. TS people, here's a little PSA for you. Don't water your plants when you're really tired. That poor polka dot plant didn't know what hit it. Anyways, I digress. So those little green and blue water soluble fertilizers seem like a great idea. They are recommended frequently. However, they're not very eco-friendly, which is kind of a bummer. And they actually don't contain enough of the micronutrients, so things like zinc and boron and iron that, your more natural fertilizers will have. So, in my opinion, in my recommendation, try to turn to a fertilizer that is a little bit more natural, more organic. It's better for the environment, it's better for your plants, and the less chemicals that we can have in our home, especially for those people with children, the better. So the fertilizer that I have found and I am obsessed with comes with a little bit of a story. So if you watched I think it was my winter plant care video, you saw me show you this. Some of you may be familiar with this stuff already. This is the stuff that Jordan calls fart water because he's a delicate flower. So let me explain to you the story of how this happened. So my guys at House of Monstera sent me a little bit of this, a smaller bottle, one time, and I started using it and I was obsessed with it. I found my plants were thriving, they were growing amazing, they were looking stunning, and so I really just liked what it did for my plants. So I started buying it on my own on Amazon. And so if you've purchased anything off Amazon before, you will know that after you buy something, typically within a few days, the company will contact you just to see how you like the product. Is it working for you? Do you have any questions? So I took the opportunity because what I like about this product is that, number one, it's all natural. So this fertilizer is 100% marine phytoplankton. And also I liked it because it's a Canadian company. And as I'm sure all of you can relate to out there is, you want to support local, you want to support your country and that kind of thing. So I really like that this was made in Canada. So instead of just plain old writing a review, I actually wanted to let them know how much I appreciated their product. So I sent them an email and I kind of explained to them, you know, how much I liked it, how much I love the fact that they were Canadian. I also explained to them, you know, I do have a YouTube channel. I do have a lot of rare plants and, you know, more expensive plants. And I really am enjoying what your product is doing for my plants. And so they reached back out to me and, you know, they were thrilled by that. They were, you know, so happy that, you know, I was happy with the product, and, you know, they wanted to see the channel. So I sent them the channel link. They watched it. They really, really liked it. I definitely, you know, I said in a previous video that, you know, I would never recommend something to you guys that I don't believe in. I can't consciously do that. And so because this is a product I believe in is why I'm explaining it to you guys. And anyways, so these guys are great. I will link their website below. They are a couple who just have these amazing beliefs about, you know, the Earth's sustainability and, you know, the environment and that kind of thing. And they're so, so passionate about it. And this is kind of where this marine phytoplankton thing came from. And so this product is packaged and harvested on Victoria Island in British Columbia, Canada. And so they have, not only do they have their soil enhancers, this technically isn't a fertilizer, but it does have all of the nutrients like I explained to you before. It's got your nitrogen, your phosphorus, your potassium. It also has your micronutrients like your zinc and your boron and your iron, which is fantastic. Now, with all of that stuff aside, just a side note here, without all the numbers and that kind of stuff, I can recommend this to you because I've used it. I've used it for months and months, and my plants are doing amazing. Now, I'd like to think that it's something that I'm doing and that they just love me, but let's be real. I attribute a lot of my plants to this stuff. And so, again, that's why I'm recommending it to you. So another cool thing that I didn't really know about marine phytoplankton is actually really good for you as a person. So really, really cool fun fact. They sent me some of their products just so I had an idea of kind of, you know, what they did and that sort of thing. So they actually have, so it's like a marine sea salt spray. So, you know, you make your food and spray this on. It's a natural salt, which is great. It's much better for you than, you know, your Windsor salt or whatever it is that you buy, which I thought was really cool. They also have they're like a tablet that you take once a day, kind of like a vitamin, and it's really good. I think it's good for like your guts and that kind of thing. Like it helps with it. There's details, but I can only cram so much in my brain at one time here. I really do encourage you guys to go check out their website. What I really, really love about this company, and I think the number one thing that just makes them even more amazing and pushes this whole thing over the top, is that a percentage of all of their sales goes to this initiative called Mission Blue. So there are these things, these spots. There's these spots in the ocean called hope spots. So these hope spots are places in our ocean that are vital to the health of our ocean. And so this initiative was created to help protect these spots, which I just think is so amazing. Anyways, I was in love with the product far before this, and you know, this just made it all that much more amazing for me. So, I mean, don't take my word for it though. Try it yourself. Let me know what you think. I'm curious. I know there are some other, there's some other plant YouTubers that use this. I believe that they're liking it. I can't imagine them not. All I can tell you is I know what it's done for my plants. This sounds like a commercial. I swear to God, they're not sponsoring me. It's not a commercial. When I feel really passionately about something, I tend to like, so here's me doing that. So I will leave that at that. I will put the link to their website. I also have had the link for this particular soil enhancer in my description for months under feeding. I think I have like different categories, and I think it's down in there. And you know, try it for yourself. Try it for yourself. Let me know what you think. I'm really curious. If you get it, let me know what you think. Like I said, I can only tell you what my experience has been, and it's been amazing, which is why I can't shut up about it. Okay, let's move along. So basically, to wrap things up here, you know, plants give us a lot of signals. You know, they wilt if they need water. They will grow pale and leggy if they're not getting enough water. If they're not getting enough humidity, they start to get crispy, that sort of thing. However, it's not as easily pinpointable when your plant is lacking nutrients, which is unfortunate. There's no clear signal from your plant that's like, yo, we'll fertilize down here. It's harder to pinpoint. Other than perhaps like slowed growth, stagnant growth, those kinds of things. But typically those are things that are really hard to kind of spot off the hop. And it's probably not the first thing that you'd think of when you see those signs. Like, oh, my bad, I need to fertilize. So basically, instead of waiting for some signal from the plant gods, we kind of need to take matters into our own hands and, you know, take care of all these plants that we have nourished and cherished and nurtured and grown and put our blood, sweat, and tears into. You know, give them what they need. They need the nutrients from a fertilizer. I'm sure that not all of you are going to agree with me here, so I am prepared for that. However, in my experience, fertilizing is really important to your plant. Please fertilize your plants. That is basically all I wanted to say. I hope that even some of that information was marginally helpful to you. If it was, let me know. I'm curious to see what you have to say. Again, I will link Marphyl's website down in the description. I will also link Mission Blue and their website down in the comments as well. It's just a fantastic initiative. Without our oceans, oh boy, we're in a world of trouble. So, you know, every little bit that we can do to help that is amazing. And I think we should. We have a responsibility to the planet that we live on to help it out a little. We are destroying it, which is really sad. And I'm not going to get on this big eco rant because I am not always eco-friendly. But everywhere that we can try to help that, we definitely should do that. Especially as plant people. We have the appreciation for the plants, and you know, giving back to them, I think, is important. And I'm ranting. Okay, let's wrap it up. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. Please go ahead and comment and let me know what your thoughts on this are. And if you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe. It's a huge help, and I really do appreciate it. So I would like all of you to have a great day, night, week, month, and or year. And I love you all to bitty bits. I will see you in the next one. Mwah.